Hello and welcome back to the Odds Now YouTube channel for the latest edition of the EFL Betting Show with myself, Matt Hill, and my regular co-host and EFL guru, Gab Sutton. Now, Gab has laid down the gauntlet to me this week. He suggested that I actually get up off my backside and produce some tips of my own and stop piggybacking off his. Well,
I phrased it exactly like that, Matt, didn't I?
Look, Gab, my show, my rules. Yeah. To be fair, it was more modest than that. It was a little, would you like to have a go at the tipping as well? Well, anyone that hasn't come across me, I have done a bit of tipping in my time. Previously, I used to write a few columns here and there. So it will be a pleasure to get involved in the tipping. So we're going to frame it. I don't want to say it's Matt versus Gab, but we'll certainly be keeping a track of who's winning more money. I think it's fair to say, as long as I am the person winning more money. Obviously, if not, I'll just forget to do that. Update them totals. But yeah, obviously, we'll start from now. We'll start from 0-0. And there's no real rhyme or reason to the selections. It's just 3 picks a piece each week. Whatever we fancy, we go for, whatever the price is and how we want to play it. So, Gab, I'm going to let you tee off because obviously you've been doing the picks for us up until this point. So you can go with your first pick, which is Bristol Rovers to beat Crawley at even money. Talk me through it.
Yeah, I really like this selection. I think if you look at Bristol Rovers' record against the weaker sides in League One, they've been pretty ruthless. And I think they're a side that like to get the, if there's a forward pass that they can play early to get someone in behind or to open up the opposition, they'll probably go for it. So they play at quite a high tempo under Matt Taylor, and they're always looking to kind of keep the opposition defence honest. And I think that hasn't always worked against the better organised sides in the league, but I think against the weaker sides, the sort of opportunism that Bristol Rovers play with can pay off. And I think Crawley are probably the ideal opponents for that in theory, at least. Whether it'll work out that way, we don't quite know. But in theory, I think Crawley are the ideal opponents because they're a very expansive side. They play with very much a possession-based style. They split their defence wide. And I think there are going to be lots of opportunities to, for Hutchinson slotting on Machero, for example, and for Bristol Rovers to kind of open things up. They've got lots of pace in forward areas. So I do feel like Bristol Rovers have an opportunity here to win. And I like the even money as well. And I think if you look at Bristol Rovers' record against the bottom 8 in the league, I think that would help. That might encourage you to go with this selection.
So you've obviously, I think you've opposed Crawley previously on these shows as well. We all know Scott Lindsay's left for MK Dons. They've replaced him with Rob Elliott, the Gateshead, former Gateshead manager. He also likes to play that expansive possession-based style, as you reference. And I think that I've been quite pleasantly surprised how high their possession stats have been so early into his tenure. They've got like 40+% possession in their last couple of games. 2-2 draw with Huddersfield last time out. I know they scored 2 from 3 shots in that game, so it was a little bit of a smash and grab to an extent. But did you think the drop off after Lindsay would be worse than what it has been so far?
Possibly, yeah. I still feel like Crawley. I really think Crawley are going to finish in that bottom 4, even if they've done okay since Lindsay left. Obviously, only 1 defeat from their last 4 games. But I look at Shrewsbury have appointed Gareth Ainsworth. I look at Burton. I think they're appointing Jim McNulty. I've probably seen some signs of life from them this season, even if it wasn't quite reflected in the results under Mark Robinson. Cambridge, of course, they were thrashed 6-1 in the Cambridgeshire derby last time out, but they actually won 3 in the spin before that.
That was a little humble brag there for your winner last week, wasn't it, Gab?
I know, yeah. Ricky J. Jones as well. But then you look at the teams sort of immediately above the relegation zone. Well, Leyton Orient, Wigan and Blackpool, I'm not sure I can really see either of those going down. So, I'm pretty worried about Crawley. They've conceded 27 goals in 15 league games, so nearly 2 per game on average. I think they're going to be in for a difficult afternoon.
Okay, then. Okay, that's an even money selection for Gab to start things off this week. Over to me then for my first pick of the season officially. And it is Doncaster to have over 5.5 corners against Salford at 5-6. Right now, this is a bit of a lesson I want to deliver here in a process we would call in betting Dutching, or you may be more familiar with arbitrage. Let me tell you a little bit about this. Now, this is a process in betting where if we have a betting market where the punter has a favourable over round, so effectively you can back all possible outcomes and secure a profit because the prices are overly generous across various bookmakers. This doesn't happen very often, particularly in modern betting, because it's so computer driven. Normally, if the computer system, the algorithm notices an opportunity like this, they'll slash the price.
Also, Matt, can I just come in on that? Do you think Odds Checker is a factor behind that? Because Odds Checker has all of the odds available.
100%. Odds Checker is a pro and a con, really, for punters. In that, yes, it lets you scan the market, but it also makes it very easy for other betting companies to keep an eye on what their competitors are doing. And the systems are very, very sophisticated. So you don't get opportunities like this very often. However, we do have an opportunity here because there's a difference of opinion in this Doncaster corners line. Bet365 go 5 to 6 either way on under or over 5.5 corners. So that is a 54.5% chance of Doncaster getting over 5.5 corners. Still with me? Boyle Sports have a stronger opinion on this. They think it's 13 to 10 that Doncaster will have under 5.5 corners and just 4 to 7 that they get over 5.5 corners. 63% chance. So there is a 12% chance in difference between Bet365 and Boyle Sports. Now, I know I've got very overly mathematical here for most people listening, but basically, I will give you this in simple terms. If I place £5,565 on over 5.5 Doncaster corners with one bookie and £4,435 on under 5.5 corners with the other one, I could go to the Keepmoat Stadium safe in the knowledge that I will win £200 regardless of how many corners are in this match. Now, obviously, that's not very viable. There's not many people with a spare £10,000 knocking about to bet on Doncaster's corners this weekend. But it just serves to show a point that there is a difference of opinion here between the bookies. And therefore, there's probably something that we can exploit. So I dive a little bit deeper into this, and I find myself leaning towards over. Doncaster, their matches have had more corners than anyone else in the division this season. They also average over 6 corners a game, and that number is a one that goes up at home as well. Salford, meanwhile, they give away roughly 5 corners a game, but again, that number goes up when they are playing away from home towards 6. So all indicators are that Doncaster can rack up the requisite corners in this game. I had the pleasure of watching Salford last weekend in their defeat to Carlisle, and I would say that they play with a lot of pace and they play in the transition, and I do think there will be opportunities for Doncaster's explosive forwards and wide players to put pressure on them and cover this line. So yes, I've gone very, very technical and deep there, but I just wanted to give you a feel for how I've landed on this very obscure bet, Doncaster over 5.5 corners. Gab, I could see I've just absolutely frazzled your brain there.
It's not difficult. I wanted to kind of bring the sort of footballing aspects to this because I think that's you've made a great case from the sort of scientific, mathematical perspective. I think Doncaster, for me, have lots of strong runners. So I look at both fullbacks, Jamie Serry and Jack Senior are strong runners. Even Joseph Olowu, centre half, Patrick Kelly, who they got on loan from West Ham in midfield. Carl Hurst, who they've got on the left, and their number 10, Harry Clifton, is a real athlete as well. And what's really impressed me about Doncaster is that they've got a little bit of a Klopp's Liverpool kind of Jurgen pressing style about them. And I think with the number of strong runners, I would imagine, I've not had the chance to do any digging into the mathematics of this, but I think if you're a super cautious possession-based side, you might not necessarily have that many corners because there aren't going to be as many people taking the chance, going beyond their man and trying to... it's going to be more methodical because corners are basically the secondary prize of an attack that hasn't quite come together. So the way Doncaster play, because they've got lots of strong runners who are going to take people on, does that increase the likelihood of corners, a higher volume of corners? So that could be worth considering as well.
I think we're getting towards a university study here, aren't we, of corners? But I mean, just for reference, for anyone who's never sort of looked into corner betting, obviously it's a very data-driven market. People are crunching numbers on this kind of thing all the time. The bookies probably have better numbers than you will lay your hands on for these kind of things. However, I do think when you combine the knowledge of how the betting market should look and when there's a difference of opinion, and then when you identify the right game and do your analysis, things like what you're saying there, Gab, like understanding the way that the team plays, the type of way that they attack. Are they likely to play it out wide? Are they likely to settle for a corner if their cross is blocked? Or will they go back and check back and go into the fullback again? And I just think there's a lot of ducks in a row aligning here. Like in their last 2 home games, Doncaster, and game state is another thing I would factor in here. So game state is basically, are the team chasing a game? Have they fallen behind and there's an urgency to score? Are they leading the game and in control of it? And I think that in a 1-0 loss to Bromley, when they had to go and chase the game, Doncaster racked up double-figure corners. In what was a tightly contested game with Notts County last week, I think it finished 1-1. They still got 9 corners. And it probably tells you that they just like to attack in that kind of way. They're quite an energetic front foot side. And I think they can make a real case for this. And I think, to be honest, this is the kind of price I expect will disappear when somebody with a bit more money than me clicks onto it and maybe invests wisely. So that's my first pick. Went far more technical than I ever thought I would on Doncaster's chances of winning a corner. But that's what you've done. You've asked me to contribute to the show. You've opened a can of worms here.
Drill down on the details. Absolutely.
Yeah. Next week, stay tuned for Bromley's throw-ins. No, all jokes aside. Back to you, Gab. MK Dons, who I know you're a massive fan of, their manager. It's Scott Lindsay. You've got them -1 handicap versus Cheltenham, expecting a comfortable afternoon for them here.
Yeah, I think so if we were looking at the outright win price, it was 4 to 5, and I was really surprised that it was as big as that or as close to evens. And I think there's an element of the traders reacting to Cheltenham Town's recent form, which I can understand because they've definitely improved recently. I think Michael Flynn has recently gone to a 4-3-3, and he's made a couple of tweaks, and they've had some good results. They won at Rotherham in the FA Cup, played well against Bradford, a couple of wins on the board. But I still don't think that this recent improvement in form, especially given that they failed to beat 10-man Bromley at the weekend, is enough to really move the needle in the odds from what would have been, what do you think, Matt? 1 to 2 would normally, if this was a month ago and MK Dons were in the form they're in now, would it be about 1 to 2? Do you think?
Yeah, I think it would. And I'm a bit MK Dons are one of the more interested sides in the EFL in terms of betting for me, because I just think there was a lot of expectation around them at the start of the season. They went off favourites for League Two, well-backed favourites as well. Obviously got off to this really tough start under Mike Williamson, who's since left for Carlisle. And look, they haven't had a good start, but they've made a fantastic appointment in Scott Lindsay. This is a squad that, if you rewind 3 months, everyone was waxing lyrical about the quality in this squad. And we're now seeing results start to match up with what we expected. I personally still think MK Dons can get themselves into the automatic promotion mix this season, no problem. I think they're very big in that market, and I'm very keen to get with them. And to be honest, Gab, if you hadn't got to this pick first, I might have been along a similar line here. So yeah, you've got my approval on this one.
Yeah, so the one option is to go with MK Dons at 4 to 5, which I think is a great price, especially given the way that MK Dons are playing at the moment. They really impressed me last week. I like Kane Thompson-Summers in midfield. They signed him from the non-league scene in the summer, and I think he's a really good ball carrier. Played some lovely diagonals out to the wing backs, so I think he looks like a really good addition, having recently come into the side. I think they're playing with a lot more freedom as well under Scott Lindsay. I think they were so regimented under Mike Williamson that there was a lack of individual creativity, and I think they've got a bit more of that now. So the way that they're playing in the league at the moment, I think the 4 to 5 is a great price. But if you want to add a bit of juice to the price, I think there's a chance that they win by more than one goal. And I'm really surprised that's as big as 9 to 4. So 9 to 4 with Sky Bet at MK Dons to win by 2 or more goals, or but by the -1 handicap. That will be my selection.
Yeah, I like it. Can't argue with it. And I just double down on what I said earlier. MK Dons maybe want to go and have a look at in the League Two promotion market. For me, I think they're worth having on side. I think the table is, look, we've got an idea of who's going to be up there and who's not, but at the end of the day, the table is still quite tight. It takes a little run of 3 or 4 wins to make things look very different, doesn't it? And I think they're
don't want to put you on the spot, Matt, but do you know what the prices are for MK Dons to get automatic promotion at the moment?
I could certainly get them to you. If you can just fill our airtime with some wisdom, Gab, give me 30 seconds.
I think with MK Dons, they've got a mixture of some really exciting technical players, whilst also having a couple of players like Alex Gilby, for instance, who's got a big connection with the club, who's very driven. So I've got it up at the moment. They're currently 23 to 10 with Paddy Power at the best price, and also with Betfair. So I think 23 to 10 is a good price, because at the moment I personally think that they're better than Port Vale in terms of, if I'm judging performance levels under Scott Lindsay. I think Walsall are doing really well at the moment, but I'm not necessarily
sure they're going to sustain that.
They have come out of nowhere, having finished sort of mid-table.
I got to say, I would go one step further. I think you could back them for a top 3 finish at 4 to 1. I think they're that good. I think they can. I think they can really bullet themselves back into that automatic race. And I mean, some people. I think that to win the league is maybe pushing it now after that slow start. But hey, if they get some momentum behind them, I wouldn't count them out of that completely. Yep. So there's still juice there in all of those markets. 12's available for the league. So anyway, that's just some food for thought for people who are still because I think there's a misinterpretation as well with people that you can only put these bets on teams to win. We see everyone likes to do a bet at the start of the season, don't they? Who's going to win the championship? Who's going to win League One? People only think they could do them on the first day of the season. Like, look, things change. If you see a team that have started slowly, that appear to be clicking into gear, it's time to get on them. Is now, Yes, you've got leagues like League One where Birmingham have been excellent generally, and even though the gap isn't maybe what we thought it was going to be, without going too far off piece, they're very short for the league now. The value has gone in that league, but in a league like League Two, there's still loads of value floating about, because we're still not sure if the ones at the top are going to stay there, and that creates opportunity for those slow starters to get back into the race. So I'm sure that's something we'll come on to again down the road. moving on then, my second pick, and that is Accrington Stanley to beat Swindon. And I've been very, very impressed with the results from Accrington Stanley under John Doolan recently. I had grave concerns about them coming into this season. I must be honest, I've backed them to be relegated at the start of the season. I'll put my cards on the table there. I'm a little bit worried about this now. I do think that this run of form is probably not sustainable in the long run, but I do have concerns about Swindon as well. So this is a little bit of a twofold bet where there's a team in good form against a team who I'm a little bit not sure about, and home advantage as well, always important. Now, Accrington have picked up 4 wins in the league this season. They've all come in their last 6 League Two games, so they are banging form. They beat Chesterfield, managed by their former player and manager, Paul Cook, 3-0, inflicting the first home defeat of the season on the Spireites. They only had 28% possession in that game and won 3-0, which tells you all you need to know about how they did it. But Doolan afterwards came out and said that they had a very clear game plan, that they tried to sort of project onto the players about how Chesterfield would play, how they would have to sit in and when to exploit them, how to exploit them. He really heaped praise on his players for how they carried out that game plan. And to me, that's encouraging, because I think when you're down at the bottom and when you're a perceived struggler, the bond between manager and squad needs to be really strong, because maybe they haven't got the strength of quality that other teams have got. So you really need to have the manager getting the best out of the players at his disposal. And I like those comments. I thought, okay, this is a team playing for their manager and enjoying the way he's going about it. John Doolan, obviously not a big name, but as we've seen time and again at League Two level, if there's a good bond between manager and players, that can count for a lot more than name and pedigree in the game. So Swindon, on the other hand, Ian Holloway's come in. I'm not sure about that appointment. I think that goes one way or the other. His last job at Grimsby, less said about that, the better, I think. And yeah, someone who's been in the game a long time, achieved a lot at the highest level, but equally his more recent tenures have not filled me with confidence at all. They went 1-0 up.
The more recent tenures that he's even had.
Well, exactly. He's basically been out the game, hasn't he? He's been defunct largely for the last decade. People still probably remember him for like his amusing rants in Premier League press conferences, but we're going back to like early 2000s nearly. So a lot of water under the bridge since then. They went 1-0 up very early at MK Dons last weekend, but then were comprehensively outplayed, lost 3-1. I think if Holloway even is to make an impact, it's going to take him a little while. And I just think they're playing an informed team. Tails up from a 3-0 win where they weren't expected to get anything. I think 11-8 is a bit too big. I'd have Accrington closer towards even money, and I think money will continue to come for them between now and Saturday. So yeah, happy to be on at 11-8.
Yeah, just to not much to add to that, because I think you've summarised it really well. But I've always felt, even before, I don't think we're overreacting here to form, because I would actually say that, and like you, I had Accrington Stanley going down. Even before that winning streak, I always felt like in every game that I saw from Accrington Stanley, in terms of studying extended highlights and things like that, I always felt like, yes, they've lost, but they were creating chances, or yes, they've only drawn, but you felt like they had Sean Wiley who could create something, or Dara Costello was in form, or it always felt like there was 1 or 2 players who was sort of in form at that time, and it always felt like they had something about them, and that's kind of manifested itself in results recently. And I don't know if you managed to see Zach Orr's goal, linking up with Dara Costello. It was a lovely. It was a bit like, reminded me a little bit of when Roberto Martinez got Emerson Boyce playing with Wigan. Do you know what I mean? It's like
it's a lovely niche reference, that.
Yeah, lovely sort of 1-2 with Dara Costello, and it's great to see a defender getting forward in open play and scoring a goal with their feet. So well done to John Doolan, because that takes a bit of doing.
Yeah, it does. And like I say, I don't know if they took 13 points from 18. That's probably not sustainable. But I do think that this is a winnable game for them at home to a team that I'm not entirely convinced about. And I think their confidence will be extremely high at the moment. And 11-8, it's all about the price. It's a principle that I keep repeating on this channel, regardless of what we're talking about here. You have to know a price that you think is a good price. And even if you don't think the outcome is going to occur, if it's a good price, you have to bet on it. And it's a principle that people find hard to understand, because they just want to bet on things that are going to win. But ultimately, it is a game of maths, and you do need to have a basic understanding of beating the maths enough times will leave you in profit come the end of the season, because we have this thing called variance, where you can put in all the research, find the best pick in the world, and you get a bit of bad luck. And it doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. As long as you're on the right side of the coin, eventually things will tilt in your favour. And I think this is one where, if you offered me 11-8 about this Accrington side to beat this Swindon side right now, I think it would happen more often than not. So I'm happy to get on.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Okay. God, I'm rambling here. Gab, back to you for your final pick, Notts County to beat Crewe 7-4. This looks a big price. I mean, it's two teams at the top end of the division facing off. Notts County, you backed them to win 8-1 last week, which was, I thought that was coming in for you for a while. 78th minute, I think, equaliser from Donny. But
a dagger to my heart, man.
Yeah, credible performance from Notts County. Nonetheless, you're going to give them another chance this weekend against Crewe.
I am, yes. It's better to have loved than lost. So I'm believing again that. Yeah, I think a little bit price related. This one. Anyone who watches regularly or listens regularly will know that I am a big advocate of Notts County, and I really like the improvements that they've made to become a better balanced team this season. And although in normal, I recognise that going to Crewe Alexandra isn't going to be easy because Crewe have got a very good defensive structure in place. They've got a lad on loan from Bristol City called Knight Labelle, alongside Nicky Dimitri, who's one of the best centre-backs in the league, and Zach Williams, who's enjoyed a real resurgence this season. And those three between them have been rock solid, along with Ryan Cooney and Max Conway as the wing-backs. So I'm not saying by any means that this is going to be easy for Notts County, but I still think that 7-4, given that I would say Notts County along with Doncaster are or an MK Dons are probably the three best sides in League Two. I think for them to be 7-4 for a team that I wouldn't put in that category necessarily, admittedly they are away from home, I just think the price is a bit too big. So this isn't necessarily against Crewe, who I think are having a very solid season, and I expect them to keep a lot of clean sheets this year. But 7-4 is a big price for me, given how highly I rate Notts County.
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, look, we all have these teams that we sort of lean towards, don't we? Or we get a bit of a fondness for. I can tell Notts County are one of yours, and I must admit they're one of mine as well. I just think that they're so consistent with the amount of chances that they produce as well. So I always feel like in any game, it's not going to take an awful lot for them to click and get in front. And I think they're very good at managing the game as well. I think being a possession-based side, once you get that lead, if you're comfortable on the ball, it just makes life a hell of a lot easier to close games out. Not actually digged into the stats on them retaining leads. But I always thought their first season back in the EFL, they were a very chaotic side, very good going forward, but also leaked a lot of goals. And that's been the big change we've seen this year, hasn't it? They've just been a little bit more secure, knowing when to play, knowing when to not. And the game management, which is such a core factor for teams wanting to go up out of this division. How do you manage games when you're one down, when you're one in front? I think they're very good at that. It's the kind of game where I could see them getting their noses in front and just managing it well. So, yeah, once again, I cannot fault Gab. My last pick, this is a big stab, this. But I just wanted to, I said to Gab before we come on, I just wanted to get this out there, more like cathartic for me, so that if it happens in a future week, I can at least say I saw it coming. This is a one with my own team, Carlisle, and this is Ben Williams, left back, with a very interesting path to this point. And he is probably someone that won't be on many people's radar because he was signed on the morning of the first day of the season for Carlisle by our former boss, Paul Simpson. Basically, we had a late injury to new left back Cameron Harper, and Simpson called up Williams, brought him in to train with the team the week before the first game of the season, and he signed. Now, Williams formerly been playing his trade at Cheltenham for a few seasons, and he parted ways there. Still relatively young, but has suffered with injury a little bit in his career. Unfortunately, I think that's probably held him back a little bit. Anyway, on debut, Carlisle were beaten 4-1 at Gillingham, but that was probably not a very reflective scoreline of the game. Very tight contest, really. Gillingham just showing a clinical edge on that day. But Williams was an eye-catching performer, absolutely bombing forward and marauding down the left flank. Got some great crosses in, including one for Charlie Wyke, who should have converted. So generally came away with most fans impressed by his debut performance. He retained his spot in the side and played in Carlisle's first 5 games of the season, was one of the better performers. And then, unfortunately for him, suffered another injury, which has kept him out for the last 2 months. Now, as I say, injury's been a little bit of a theme of his career, unfortunately. Since he's come back, it's been all change at Carlisle, obviously. Not been a good start to the season, but there's a new manager in town, Mike Williamson, who likes to play a completely different system. He's playing with wing-backs, and he likes his wing-backs to get forward. Now, Carlisle have got a few injuries at both sides and both flanks at the moment. Tyler Burry has been operating at right wing-back, who is traditionally more of a forward. So Williamson is not averse to trying things in those areas, shall we say, to get things clicking. Williams made his return to action in midweek in what was a dead rubber Bristol Motors easy me to say, trophy game against Morecambe. He came on with Carlisle 1-0 down, and they ended up winning 2-1. The first goal, he bombed forward to the byline and assisted a youth team striker, Freddie O'Donoghue, for the equaliser. The second goal, he was the furthest man forward, converting the cross. And I was really, really surprised just how far forward he was operating when he came onto the field. And I can't help but think Williamson will have been rubbing his hands at that performance, because it's exactly what Carlisle have been crying out for in that area of the field. John Mellish was playing at left wing back last time out against Salford, who you can never fault his energy and endeavour, but he's certainly not a natural left wing back. And I think Williams coming back into the fray. Now, he may not start. This is a big caveat, because obviously he's only had 30 minutes off the bench. He's coming back from a long-term injury. But I do think he's priced with all bookmakers as the least likely player from either team to score this weekend. He's the outsider of the entire field. He's 66-1 to score the first or last goal, and he's 25-1 to score any time. Now, Carlisle are at Bromley this weekend. Not one of the more fearsome sides in the division, I think it's fair to say, although they do have a decent home record. But this is more on the basis that I think Williams appears to be set to offer a real attacking threat. And I think in what has been a problem area, I could see him being chucked in as soon as he's ready to do so, or even coming off the bench and giving Carlisle some real impetus down that left flank. He's shown he can finish. He's shown he can pop up in advanced areas. And I think 25-1, even if it doesn't cop this week, it's one worth keeping on your radar. If that price maintains and he finds his way back into the 11, I do think it'll cop at some point in the next few weeks.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I've seen Ben Williams score another goal against Morecambe, actually, for Cheltenham Town a couple of seasons ago, and he does like to sort of fly forward in those transitional moments. So let's hope that he has his opportunities to do that this weekend, because he does seem to be quite an attack-minded wing-back, and hopefully he can get some regular games, because, like you say, injuries have made life difficult for him. And also, when Cheltenham had a really good left wing-back in his time there called Will Ferry, who was starting regularly, so even when Ben Williams was fit, it was difficult for him to get into the side. So hopefully that he can get a run of games now and hopefully stay injury free. So yeah, I'll watch out for Ben Williams with interest.
Let's just hope he gets on the field. I think he'll have. I think this week he'll certainly have a cameo. So it might even be one of those that people want to monitor in play. If he comes on, you could get Bet365 price up goal scorers in play, and you could be talking monstrous prices. He'll be the outsider of everyone on the pitch. But I was really impressed with his attacking output. If anyone wants to go and watch those trophy highlights from midweek, I'm not going to try and name the trophy again. But if anyone wants to go watch those highlights on YouTube, you will see just how far forward he was getting. And it certainly doesn't correlate with that price for me. But yeah, a long shot to end the week, one to keep an eye on. Just as we look to finish up, we'll pull the best bet onto the screen there. No extra prizes for this, Gab. But if you could only back one of these, which one would it be?
I think my nap would probably be MK Dons -1 handicap against Cheltenham.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, actually. I think that's... and even like you said, the 4 to 5 just looks like one you'd stick on your accumulator and be fairly confident about it, wouldn't you? For me, just because of the sheer amount of interest and research that went into it, I think with them Doncaster corners, I'm going to be monitoring closely from the away end in Bromley. Yeah, I'll be getting the notifications on and hoping they fly in. But yeah, that would probably be my best bet. Although I'm keen on Accrington as well. I think for the reasons given, really, Accrington, I think, are in a really good moment. Swindon less so. So we will see. I hope you enjoyed the EFL Betting Show this week. Let us know which of our picks you like the most. Feel free to take them apart as well in the comments. Love to hear what you're backing this weekend. And if you are going to a game, enjoy yourself. And yeah, by all means, let us know any little gems you might have for us to keep an eye on in future weeks as well. Because I always think that sort of intimate knowledge people have of their own team can often bring some great angles into these things as well. So thanks for watching. Please be sure to subscribe to Odds Now for all the latest betting insight and analysis, and we'll see you again very soon.